Happy Tournament Week, everybody. We have made it there. Woo! Tournament special for In the Bonus. We've got Chloe Marotta, Lisa Carlin and Isis Young, and myself, Meghan Caffrey, here today to talk all things Big East women's basketball tournament, because this podcast drops on Wednesday. Our tournament starts on Friday at Mohegan Sun Arena, which we are pumped for. So we're going to get into that in just a hot second. But first, we cannot get into this podcast without talking about ICE, the game that you were on the call for Sunday evening, Villanova, DePaul. I literally, as that game ended, I was with my family watching. I screamed out loud. It was incredible. I was like, I just kept her cool on the broadcast. I would have lost it. I mean, how exciting was it to be on the call for that?
Oh, I lost it just silently. Like Greg Mescal, my partner, I literally grabbed his arm and was like shaking, like as she makes the shot. Man, buzzer beaters are always such a moment. It's always just reminds you like, oh, I love this game. This is why I love this game, because these moments happen. Really heartbreaking for DePaul, guys, because they battled. Like, they had led the entire game. Villanova only led for 9 seconds in the entire game. And so DePaul just like was doing well on the road. They knocked down shots. They were playing defense. And then just like slowly but surely, like Lucy Olsen just decides to like really wake up and just like exert her dominance. Like, honestly, she just scored buckets down the stretch in the second half. I think half of their plays offensively were like her ISO. Yeah. Like a couple of times it was just her coming down an ISO and like getting to her free throw line pull up. And then I think the last second shot, like, there was enough time for her to catch and shoot, and they ran the perfect curl action to get her just the perfect look. It was like her shot. And I think that's a credit to Denise Dillon, because we think about like, you know, a player's kill spots, right? Like Kobe's like, you know, left elbow, like his kill spot. He's going to make that. Like that is her kill spot, is like that right elbow free throw line jumper. And so it's just very poetic the way that happened, especially on senior day. But I think Villanova has been just a team that has really just weathered the storm. And it just was like a perfect put a bow on it kind of a season. Like, this is how it's been. Like, it hasn't looked pretty, but they've weathered the storm.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect way to look at it. And with that, as we can now, I think, appropriate time, right, to talk about what our bracket is going to look like a little bit. With that locked up Villanova as the number 4 seed. So now Villanova, they'll take on Marquette in quarterfinals in that 4-5 matchup, which is always such an incredible game. And with that also landed DePaul, the 10 seed. We will talk to head coach of the Blue Demons, Coach Bruno, here in just a sec. But that gives DePaul a first-round game against Seton Hall. So, Chloe, I'll start with you. When you're looking at especially maybe some of these first-round games, I'm pumped because I'm going to be on the call with you on Friday for one of our first-round games. What are you looking at here? What's intriguing you?
First, I mean, so much excitement going into this weekend. This is the best time of the year. Going into Mohegan Sun, and it's just going to be a great time, right? And a great environment. So you're looking at that Seton Hall DePaul. They just played almost a couple weeks ago for the first time this season. And so kind of as those teams start to look at the bracket and what's coming up, they're like, oh man, we just played them. But it's also a good thing because they just scouted them and they're just very recent into the game. That last game that they played, Seton Hall kind of took over. They had a huge lead the entire game, and there wasn't much change back and forth. But DePaul is coming off a loss, like you mentioned, ICE, against Villanova, but there was so much positivity coming out of that game. They had 5 girls in double digits. They led the bench points. They were aggressive on defense. They got their steals out in transition. They did what DePaul does best. And so I think they're one of the teams that are a hot team coming into the tournament. Same thing if you flip sides on Seton Hall. They lost to Creighton, but they did still have positives. It was a close game, and Zana Baines had a phenomenal game with 23 points to lead all scorers. She's one of the top players coming into this tournament that a lot of people are going to be looking at. So I'm excited for this matchup because it's one that 2 really good teams competing against each other and really good coaches coaching against each other. So tune into this one. It's going to be a good one.
Chloe, I'm actually interested in your take on this because so oftentimes in seasons past within the Big East Conference, tournament time comes around and this is now usually the 3rd time teams are playing against one another. However, this year with the new schedule, this is only the second time for some of these teams to be playing with one another. How can that be looked at as an advantage?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at that Villanova-Marquette matchup, that's the third time Villanova will have to beat Marquette, or Marquette will have to beat Villanova for the first time. It's very, very difficult to beat a team 3 times. And so I think it gives an advantage to the DePaul Seton Hall matchup in knowing this is our second time, we make adjustments, and it's not going to be something that's, extremely hard to repeat over and over again. We have our game plan, and we have that second game is some game that you're like, man, I learned so much from that first game that I'm going to go out and put it on them as much as I can. And for DePaul, there was a lot of learning points for them for that Seton Hall game. I mean, just the way that they defended them, Seton Hall did not let DePaul get in the paint. So I'm curious coming into this game, how is DePaul going to run some sets where they can get shots for Jorie Allen in the paint, or Anaya Peoples can drive and get to what she does best inside the paint? And vice versa, Seton Hall's going to have to do it again, right? But not for the third time, just for the second time. And so they can do it, right? They can get that, it stops in the paint, and they can push out in transition. So there is an advantage of it. And if you look at the other games that are the third game, like I mentioned with Villanova and Marquette, that's a difficult matchup, and it's difficult to win 3 times.
Ice, how about you with this first round? I think you've got your eye on a little 8-9 action, notoriously a tough matchup as always. Butler, Providence, that kicks off day 1 of the Big East tournament. And I got to put it out there, okay? Anyone want to come hang out with us? We're there all weekend long. There are still tickets available. So if you want to come, make the trip. Mohegan Sun has been such an incredible home for the Big East tournament. So come, you get Friday hoops starting nice and early at 11 in the morning with Butler, Providence. Ice, talk to us about this.
Yeah, I like this matchup simply because Butler is playing its best basketball at this point in the season. We saw I think what we all were, surprised at the slow start they had to conference play. I think we thought they were going to win games right away because they had some more pieces built off of last year. And Austin Parkinson does such a fantastic job with them offensively in terms of their efficiency. And so I just think, hey, they went on a 4-game win streak. In February. They're playing their best basketball right now. And Providence, a team that just hasn't been able to be as consistent as I'm sure Aaron Bath would have liked. And so I think it's a tough matchup. And I think that just when you look at the landscape of what's going to be important for Providence, it's their guard play. I believe that, Olivia Olsen inside is going to take care of her responsibilities, but it's Gracie Fosa making sure that she plays high-level basketball. It's making sure that their guards don't turn the ball over and they get a shot up every time down the floor. But then on the other side for Butler, I truly believe it's their post presence. I truly believe it's Rachel Kent being able to score in the paint. I truly believe it's them being able to get points in transition. And so I just think both teams are going to have to play chess versus checkers, but I just think Butler has the momentum going into this game because they've played their best basketball in this month.
Oh, I like that a lot. Megan, our last matchup on day 1 at Mohegan Sun, Georgetown Xavier. Guys, we just saw them play. This is like, how unusual is that? I mean, how crazy is that, frankly? So Georgetown just traveled to Xavier, played them their last regular season game this past Saturday, and beat Xavier, for the second time this season. And it's comes down to a lot of Georgetown's defense, and that's what they ride on. And if they can do that again against the Xavier side, it's only going to help them. But playing at Mohegan Sun is it's different. I mean, I've never played there, but I've worked there as a reporter, and it is very bizarre and very different. Chloe, as someone that has played at Mohegan Sun, gone throughout a regular season, and then tried to make it to the tournament and advance and play at Mohegan Sun, how interesting is that venue as a player?
When you bring it up, I honestly get the chills because it became a venue that was great for women's basketball. And I think when you first think about it, you're like, man, you're going out to Connecticut. UConn sells out regardless of where they are and where they're playing. So now it's going to be double the amount of fans. But what you get to learn is that UConn fans are basketball fans and they will support every single game. So whether that is a game that you're not playing against UConn, they're going to be there, they're going to be watching, and they're going to be hyping each other up. And then you get to walk around the casino and just see all the girls you're about to play against, which is so different. You know, you're walking past them and Big East awards will come out. And I remember like Maddie Stigris won Big East Player of the Year, and we're about to play Villanova, and I'm walking past her and I'm like, do I congratulate her? Do I like, we're playing against each other. This is competitive, but at the same time, we're just people and we're friends and you get along. And then when he gets on the court, it's gritty and tough and you go at each other. But offside the court, it's kind of fun to get to know other girls. So it's a great environment. And I get chills about it because I've been in the championship games and I've been in the semifinal games when you step out and you look at the crowd and you're like, this is a dream come true. This is all you've ever wanted. And oh my gosh, it's just amazing. And I'm excited for these girls to have those moments this weekend.
I remember, I think it was year 2 we're there. So post-COVID. I forget exactly who I was talking to, but we were joking around. We were like, we feel like this is AAU a little bit, right? Like when you're at those tournaments and everyone's staying in the same hotels and you're just like, you walk down for the continental breakfast and you see everyone. That is the experience of when you're just walking around at Mohegan after. It's, I mean, there's great restaurants for everybody to go out and have team dinners. Everyone's families come on out. So it's a great fan experience also. Lots of yummy food and stuff to celebrate.
I think as a fan, it's cool because you can see the players. Like all of a sudden you'll be just walking to wherever you're going to eat. And then you're like, oh, wait, that's a player that I'm about to go watch play, or I just watched play last night, or that's the coach. And they're just hanging out, talking to people, chilling in the lobby. Like, I think that's a very cool experience because all of these superstars that you get to watch, whether it's coaches or players, they're very much humanized at Mohegan Sun because no one's seen the sunlight and everyone's tired and you're all just on the same playing field at that point.
It seriously is. It's so fun. It's such a blast. And to your point, Lisa, it's really special. I was able to see a couple of these interactions in the past seasons with like little girls. Like little girls are able to go up to the Chloes and all of the athletes within the conference, and like they'll go up while you're walking to and from the arena, and they get to get a picture with their favorite player that they came out to see or get the autograph. And I think that always just, it's a really awesome experience for the athletes in the Big East to just remember that like these women who are playing in the conference, you are women who little girls are looking up to who aspire to be just like you. And it's really special to be able to have that close, be in that close proximity with some of, you know, the women that as a little girl, you're oogling over all season long on TV. And then you get to finally see her. That's the coolest thing in the world.
Yeah.
I actually have a cute story about that, but this young girl, her name was Aniston. She came to all of our Marquette camps and she was a huge Jordan King fan. Like who she wants to be is Jordan King to the T. And so she came up to me, I think on like senior night, and was like, hey, don't tell Jordan, but I'm coming to the Big East tournament and I'm going to surprise her. And so she was all set for this. I mean, the girl, she's got to be 8 years old, like so young. Her parents surprised her when they step out there, and we just enter the lobby, and this girl, Aniston, comes running down, Jordan, like, surprise, I came to the Big East tournament. And Jordan was like, her heart was just like, oh my goodness. And so to your point, exactly, that is exactly how the little girls are. But even the players just feel so, you know, proud in those moments.
Aww. I love that. That's literally what it's all about. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Alrighty, ladies. I want to get into some bold predictions about what we're thinking of that could potentially happen come the start of the tournament on Friday. But first, I think we need to hear from head coach of the DePaul Blue Demons, Doug Bruno. This one is such a treat. Tune into this interview. We have some predictions for the tournament on the other side. Welcome into the podcast, DePaul head coach and Hall of Famer, Doug Bruno. Coach Bruno, thanks for coming by on potentially your first podcast with us. Thanks.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. The DePaul Blue Demons are coming off of a most recent loss to end the season to Villanova, a game that Ice, you were just on calling that game. And Coach, when you look at the game, bigger picture, the fact that you and the Wildcats, your team and the Wildcats, went down to the very last play of the game. How do you look at that and describe that this is the type of competition that the Big East is all about, right? Last game of the regular season, we're in March, and that to me was the perfect display of what Big East women's basketball really is.
The Big East is a great conference, and I don't understand why or how the net process works. I just really don't. They won't give you the formula. But anyway, obviously UConn is having they've won our conference, and Coach Jorie Allen has played the toughest non-conference schedule probably of anybody in the country. So they've really gotten better as the season's gone along, having fought through a ton of injuries. And this Creighton team is really, these young women at Creighton went to the Elite Eight 2 seasons ago, and now they're back, really having just a great season. So you go into our Big East tournament, and those are the two that are really a top. But St. John's and Villanova and Marquette all deserve, I think, to be in the NCAA tournament, every single one of them. And that's, people are going to talk about the net. And I just get a little tired of hearing about the net. Look at the teams. Look at how quality they are. Look how competitive they are. Look how tough they are. Look at, we just played Villanova yesterday, and the beauty of Villanova is they've got one very, very special player in Lucy Olsen, and they've got 4 or 5 players that are their number 2 player. Everybody else is their second best player. And so that's what makes Villanova so strong. Marquette, there's the leadership of Carlin and King and Nakumo. Those are 3 very, very, very tough players. And then you've got Mackenzie here getting just better with every single game. It's just a really, really good Marquette, strong Marquette team, tough Marquette team. And Joe's done another great job at St. John's with Unique Drake coming out of nowhere from being an average player. She was a 6th player of the year last year, very good. But her and Archer together, it's a very strong St. John's team. I think all 3 of these teams belong in the NCAA tournament. We're going to have our hand, the Seton Hall team that we're going to have to play as a 7th seed, and they wailed on Vegas earlier in the year and just played Creighton down to the wire yesterday. So this is another just a special team. And then what Darnell's done with Georgetown is he's just taken the tough loss for the entire league of Coach Butts. It's a tough loss for all of us. But then what Coach Haney has done with Georgetown, and then Austin Parkinson, what he's done with Butler, and it's just Aaron, what she's done with Providence. It's just a great league, and I really believe that there should be 5 of us in the NCAA tournament and not just 2.
Coach, you're so complimentary of every other team, every other coach in this conference. And I think it just speaks to how well respected you are as well, because I know it's a 2-way street from a lot of these coaches. It's almost like you've been listening to us on the podcast. We also think a lot of these teams should be making it into the NCAAs. This was an end of the regular season for you before you enter into conference play. But when you look back at this year and the group of players that you've been with all season, what have you learned about this group or this team or even yourself? What have you learned this year?
Well, this has been just a great group of young women to coach, and they've just done everything we've asked them. They've worked very, very hard. People think that we have 8 new players. We really have 11 new players. We have 2 players that played last year, Jorie Allen and Anaya Peoples. Everybody else is new. Mae McElwain played in 13 games last year, but didn't practice one practice, and she got into of those 13 games, probably 8 of them or 9 of them were for 2 minutes. So it's basically a brand new basketball team, and to be able to stay together and stay together through all the tough defeats that we've had. I mean, this is a team that went to Louisville and played a 7-point ball game, went to Miami, lost a 5-point ball game. They've really just had some tough game, beat a very good Green Bay team. And so they played a really formidable, tough schedule and have stayed together through it all. And that's what makes me think the most of it. That's why I'm so excited for these young women, because they haven't given up. They could have given up, most teams would have given up, and they just keep getting back off the floor and keep fighting back. The way we lost to Butler the other day is I've been doing this 50 years. Never seen a game go down the way that game went down. And then they come back and they're ready to go against a very tough Nova team. Nova's playing for a lot. Nova's playing to get in the NCAA tournament. Nova's playing for seeding. And it's senior day. And for us to do what we did yesterday, you just have to keep looking at the good things we did yesterday. And obviously, we could say we gave it away. We could say Nova took it away. All right? Nova took it away and we gave it away. But at the same time, the good things we did to give us that lead are in us. And that's what we just have to keep stressing.
Coach, I wanna keep talking about the good things. I'd like to talk about what Anaya Peoples has done this season. Just leading your team in almost every statistical category: points, rebounds, steals, and the way that she's done it also too, just playing her game. She hasn't shot it great from three, but she's still been just as effective in the paint. I just wanted to know from you, like, what have you seen out of her this season, and just the consistency behind the scenes to be able to be so consistent for you guys?
And it's just been a joy to coach. She's just a very coachable player. She comes to work every day, and it's just very, very, very coachable. And you know, it's one of those things where her and Jorie knew they were the only two players coming back, that the only two players that know what we're doing. And so Anaya's just does whatever you need her to do. And you just keep coming back to her and keep coming back to her. And so it's been very enjoyable to watch. And I can't talk about Anaya without talking about Jorie. They are a tandem here, because together they've both given us a chance here. And we have three, starters that we know are going to start every game. And that's Anaya Peoples, Jorie Allen, and Caitlin Gilbert. But Jorie's just been battling as an undersized post player all season long. We've got good size in our guard play, but Jorie's still a very undersized post player that keeps fighting and battling against every front line that we play against. And so the two of them together have been the core of what we're trying to do. And now Caitlin Gilbert's getting better with every game. She had the 17 rebound game the other night against Butler, and last night she scored the ball at some very, very important times for us where we needed scoring last night. Our scoring is coming along slowly but surely.
Yeah, I didn't say this on the broadcast yesterday, but I should have. But honestly, Jorie Allen's like relentlessness reminded me of Chloe, guys. I was sitting here and I was thinking about it, and I'm just like, this reminds me of Chloe Marotta's energy. Like, she's just not going to stop. Like, I was so thoroughly impressed watching Chloe when she played, of just the ability to go, no matter what happened, good or bad. And Jorie has that in a beautiful way. Like, whether she made the worst mistake possible or the best thing ever just happened, she's go, no matter what. Like, it's beautiful to watch.
I just experienced this learning from playing. And I said this to Chloe myself. You just said it, but I've already said it in a previous conversation I had with Chloe and whoever was doing the play-by-play, I think, getting prepared for a Seton Hall game. And, so Chloe had a great career here through grit and toughness. And when you talk about grit and toughness, it sounds like those players don't have talent. But they do have talent.
Right.
Every time she's open for a 15-foot shot, she knocks it down. So, but the experience, Chloe didn't come to work every day last year as a Marquette player thinking it's my job to teach the rest of the league. But when you do what you do, you are teaching the rest of the league. And Jorie has grown up in a basketball family. Her dad played here at DePaul. Her uncle played at DePaul. Just like Chloe grew up in a basketball family. Her dad played at Marquette. So there's similarities there for sure. And at the same time, I think there's only one Chloe Marotta and there's one Jorie Allen. And it's they're very, very important players in this league. It's what makes this league so strong.
Thank you both. That was very nice of both of you guys to bring that up. To be compared to Jorie Allen is always a compliment. I agree with you, Ice. She is someone that works extremely hard, and those are the players that are kind of remembered in the league for the way that they, play hard and play aggressive, but always stay with it no matter what. And so, thank you guys. I appreciate that. And I promise I'm not here just to receive compliments. I also want to ask a few more questions as well. So, Coach, kind of going into this Big East tournament, I kind of want to get your excitement about this. You just came off a game against Seton Hall that I covered almost 2 weeks ago. And so you get a second chance at them, a little different than normal. You're not playing them for the third time, but the second time. What's the team's kind of momentum going into this? What's the thoughts, the culture around heading into the tournament?
Well, again, Chloe, it's a lot more fun having you in the TV screen than in the Marquette warm-up line. But the interesting aspect is, how can the coach sit here and feel good about going to a tournament when you can't remember the last time we won? All right. At the same time, I do feel very good about going into this tournament because of the resiliency of the young woman I've been blessed to coach. So, we're excited about the opportunity. It's why the conference tournaments do matter. People that want to get rid of the conference tournaments. This is our NCAA tournament. And so we're excited about having the opportunity to play in the postseason. And just really excited. Tony's always done a great job at Seton Hall. He's done another great job this year and put their team in position to play in the postseason for sure. And so it's going to be a real tough, classic, I think, Big East battle.
Coach, when you look at, you had mentioned just the difference in the squad that you coached this year. But for you, you've been doing this a long time, 50 years, and you're always learning more about yourself as the type of leader that you are. When you look at your program, everyone knows what DePaul women's basketball is all about. They know what a DePaul women's basketball team is going to look like on the court. How about for yourself for this season? Where were you challenged the most as a coach?
Well, I really do believe that players win games and coaches lose games. And I believe that. Yeah. I don't, that's not me just trying to make nice on a podcast. And so,
I should have played for you. I chose wrong 4 times. I should have played for you. I agree with you, Coach. It's all, you guys lose the games. It's not us. It's not us.
Well, again, that said, I just what have I learned this year? Well, you have to be quicker when you have a new team. We were programmatic for so many years where the seniors had educated the juniors, who had educated the sophomores, who were educating the freshmen, and we were in a programmatic role. We went to 18 straight NCAA tournaments. Only 4 teams had ever done that. And so, it was a programmatic role. We were on a programmatic role. COVID hurt everybody. Okay, so you can't blame COVID because everybody had to deal with COVID. But in how we did things, where we developed our players over periods of time, I think that affected us. And I don't know that I was quick enough to get this group developed into game competition as quick as we needed to be. So I just think that was a place where I think we were, even though we were older by age, we were still a young team together. And I would like to think that we could have gotten this cooking quicker. And I would like to have quickened up the process if I could have. And maybe it's not easy to do. I tell the story about my mother, and I was blessed with a great mother and father. But my mother was a Marine in World War II. She raised 8 kids. I'm the oldest of 8. She was a school teacher as well. And she went back to teach kindergarten the second my youngest daughter, or my youngest sister, started kindergarten. And my mother taught for another 30 years after that. So, but when my mother's teaching, she's got 8 kids. Sometimes she's trying to feed us all and work all day teaching. And sometimes she'd come home and maybe a roast needed to be cooked for 3 hours at 300 degrees. And sometimes my mom would think, well, we're in a hurry here. I'm going to cook it for an hour and a half at 600 degrees. Well, it didn't quite work that way. So I'm saying we got to get quicker, but I don't know that you can take a roast that's got to take 3 hours at 300 and try to make it happen. So I don't know if I got the answer, but you're asking me what I've learned. And I think that's something that we've learned here, that we're trying to, you got to quicken your pace here when new players are added.
I absolutely love that story and kind of hearing like the family element of it. It was a really great analogy. So thank you for that, Coach. Now that
she was mad till the day she died. She was in World War II as a Marine, and her 6 brothers all got to go to combat in the Greatest Generation, and 6 of them came home from combat. And because she was a Marine, but she didn't get to fight, so she went to her death angry that she was not able to fight in World War II and was only allowed to be in the Marines, but not fighting. And she wanted to be the one hanging that, or putting that flag in.
Yeah. Well, thank you for her service and for everyone in your family. How much of that, knowing now a little bit more about your mom and how she raised you, how much of that do you think influences you as a coach?
No, I mean, I was blessed to have both a tough mom and a tough dad. My dad also was in World War II in the Army over in the Burma Trail. But at the same time, tough love is important. And when we recruit, we talk about tough love. I mean, recruiting, I refuse to make recruiting bells and whistles. I mean, a lot of people make it bells and whistles. I want the recruiting process to be what it's going to be like when you're here as a freshman in October, and you got exams, and you got new coaches, and you've lost your high school senior teammates, and you got 3 papers due, and you've had a rough practice, and some older player gave you a shot. I want it to be real. I don't want it to be bells and whistles, because that's the real life that you have to deal with. And tough love means that we love all our players, but you can't get people better without making them accountable to work to get better. And I do realize that the process and how you do that today is different, but the necessity to, the formula to succeed doesn't change. You all are budding sports journalists. You are fighting in a tough world to be the best, to take your career to another level. And it's going to require the same formula it took whoever it was that invented this thing called a railroad or invented this thing called penicillin. It's going to take that same formula, which is to dream and vision, and then put that dream to daily work, and that doesn't change. Maybe the process or the how to or the TLC necessary that goes along with it changes, but the formula doesn't change. Again, we're complimenting Chloe for a work ethic that was a champion work ethic, and you don't get to pick your generation. You don't get to pick your parents. But you do get to pick your attitude every day about how you approach your day-to-day quest to be the best you can be.
Coach, you've been coaching now.
Coach, sticking with.
Go ahead, Ice.
Oh, I was just going to say, Coach, sticking with the recruiting theme, there are so many different things that recruiting is these days with NIL and just the eyeballs now that we have women's basketball. For you in this next season, what's your focus in terms of recruiting and getting people in there that are going to be freshmen that are going to stay in a program for longer than 2 years?
Well, we like some of our freshmen. And at the same time, the freshmen, we have to get them better. We have to develop them. Philosophically, we're trying to take the recruiting process to have a double edge to it, a continued developmental edge of high school seniors. If I could write my perfect script, you'd probably like the roster to be, first of all, you have to keep openings because of the transfer portal. So if you had a 12-player roster, I would like the roster to have developmental players, that we could develop the old-fashioned way over time and by hard work and practice, and still transfer portal players that we can also develop at the same time that already have college experience. The transfer portal in and of itself is not what is bad about the transfer. It's good. The portal is good for college athletics because it allows the athletes to make decisions about their own lives and movement, and do it in a streamlined way. They no longer have to grovel to the AD, beg for a release, have the AD come back and say you can go to these schools, but you can't go to those schools. You can go anywhere but this school. Okay, so that part of the process is excellent. What has changed the game is the fact that players no longer have to sit out a year. That is what's changed everything. And, the laws of our country have said that the NCAA can't keep players in a year of limbo of sitting out. So now there's players there that have experience. So as much as we want to develop young players, how can you be waiting on a young player over a young player sometimes takes that 300 degrees for 6 hours. It takes time. So when you get a transfer portal player, you can get a player that already has intercollegiate basketball experience. We want our portal players in a perfect world to be players that we've already had relationship with through a previous recruiting. And that's that we've already recruited in the past. So that's kind of how our approach is, our philosophy. But with the new portal rules, we don't know who's in the portal. We aren't a program that has out there sending out feelers to players on other rosters. We don't believe that is what the NCAA intent is, that you're supposed to be scouring the rosters of everybody else and poaching players, all right? Enticing players under the table to get into the portal. And yet, on the 18th of March, all hell's going to break loose because that's the witching hour now where everybody can get into the portal and start putting themselves on the portal market, if you will. So we don't even know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about a philosophy. I'm not talking about specific players because I don't even know who's in there yet.
Coach, every episode on the podcast, we wrap things up with a very fun rapid fire segment. It's called In the Bonus, okay? So you get 5 questions, and this is the opportunity. I mean, I feel like any Big East women's basketball fan at this point in time feels like they know you really well, but we want them to really feel like
how many things did I repeat today that I've already said 100 times?
None. I learn something new every time, Coach. So we're going to have some fun with this, okay? Rapid fire for the most part. If you need to think on some of them, you're more than welcome to take your time to think on some of them, okay? Our first one, there's 5 questions, okay? We'll start with this one I definitely think I know, so I'm interested to hear if it is what I'm thinking it is. Where is your favorite place to eat in Chicago?
It's impossible to answer that question because there's so many great places to eat in Chicago. So I love the Erie Street Cafe. I love Gibson's. I love Gene Giorgetti's. I love Swift and Sons. I love, they just keep going on and on and on. I love Volare. I love Olavita. All right. So you want to see my list of Italian restaurants?
Oh, yeah. That is a list that I would love to take. Okay, we'll narrow it down. Favorite space to get a piece of pizza? Because people, if they've never been to Chicago, if they need to try a slice of deep dish, where are you getting your slice of deep?
I'm a thin crust guy, and I like paisanos. Right across the street from Wintrust.
Perfect.
Yep.
We love it. I actually
good call, Coach. Good call.
So good. Okay, Coach. How about your favorite thing to do on an off day when the season's over? If you've got some time to relax, what's our favorite thing to do?
I like to hit the little white ball, even though I'm not very good at it. So I do like to get out and play golf. But I try to discipline myself and only play on Saturday and Sundays, twilight, even through the whole summer. So from 4 to 8, I think there's nothing more beautiful than a sunset on a golf course. And then a nice cold one afterwards. Or 2 or 3. Or 2 or 3 or 4.
Twilight is such a nice time to play. I am also biased to that. I love that. Okay, this one I think would be very interesting for fans to know. We know, especially with the tournament coming up, you are watching plenty of film. There's plenty of hoops to be watching. However, if you're not going to be watching basketball or film, is there a piece of content you're consuming, whether it's a show, a movie, maybe it's a book if you're a reader? Is there a piece of content?
I'm a lover of old movies. So I really, in the off season, I do try to, I just try any old movie, and old doesn't. I mean, old could be 40s movie, 50s movies. It could be a 90s movie. I mean, movies that have made it through the years. I love to watch and rewatch movies, and the reading factor is I do like to read in the off season. All those smart women that I was around when I was in college, they could multitask and read and play basketball at the same time. I can't read during the season. I won't try to read during the season. And there's coaches that love to read. Jorie Cole's just great, having 1.5 hour every day to read. Gino's a big time reader too, but I have trouble reading during the season. I can do it in the off season. And what do I like? I like social history is what I like the most, and motivational books that are out there by many great writers.
I love that. How about, so we know you enjoy to golf, but is there a hobby that you have that some people might not know about besides golf?
We have 11 grandchildren, and I don't spend enough time with them. So, I mean, when you choose to coach other kids. For instance, my granddaughter Morgan just won the state championship with Loyola Academy won the state championship. Loyola Academy is a really great program. They did a great job, and they went undefeated and won the Class 4A state championship. And it was bittersweet because Nazareth is coached by a young man that I had actually recruited at Loyola. But at the same time, Loyola won the state championship. So I had to go to the NCAA to get permission. The NCAA has rules about watching your daughter. They don't have rules about watching your granddaughter. So I had to go to the NCAA and get approval to watch my granddaughter's games. But watching my grandkids play sports is a lot. I mean, I don't know that you call that or qualify that as a hobby, but because I don't get to do it enough, I really enjoy doing it. My oldest grandson is pitching now for Lewis University. He's already a freshman pitcher, and he's getting some innings. That's Jackson Bruno. So I would say that is as close as I have to a hobby. I love to play the golf at twilight.
That is definitely a hobby. That's so fun.
And I don't get close to seeing. I don't get close to seeing them enough. But when I can, I do.
Yeah.
11 is a lot. You guys, you can stay plenty busy with 11 grandkids to follow around. Coach, last question, and we know you have some experience coaching at the national level. However, this one is fun. You get to be head coach you're representing the USA 3-on-3 women's basketball, and you get to select your coaching staff. So we're looking at 3 more other coaches that you would like to have on your staff. These could be fellow coaches within the conference. They could be men coaches. They could be past, present coaches who are alive or deceased. Who else would you like to have on your coaching staff?
Well, that is how can Gino blessed me to coach with him. So how could I not return that and have Gino coach with me as well? And at the same time, then where do we go from there? There are just so many. I've been blessed to have so many great coaches, starting with Dick Flays, my high school coach, who played here at DePaul. And Ray Meyer, Frank McGrath were my assistant coaches here at DePaul. Ray Meyer's in the Hall of Fame, so is Frank McGrath's in the High School Hall of Fame. So Gene Sullivan was a great mentor of mine, like a big brother at Loyola University. So it's just too hard to. Gino would have to be on there because, again, we had a lot of good times, and we never lost a game in true competition. We lost a couple friendlies. That's another side story. Who's the only person that I've ever been with Gino when he's lost 3 in a row, and it ain't Chris Daly. You look at him, and they were friendlies, and they weren't with the number 1 squad. But if you think Gino can be a little bit irritable after a single loss, you should see him in Salamanca, Spain, after a loss in Naples, a loss in Valencia, and a loss in Prague. It was but so Gino would be for sure than any other of my own I was blessed to have as coaches.
Okay, that's fair. That's a story. That's a story for off hours of the podcast. We need to hear that story.
Sure.
Coach, that's in the bonus. That's put a bow on it. All wrapped up there. That was awesome. Congratulations, getting through it.
It wasn't quick, and it wasn't apples or oranges or cats or dogs.
but it was quick enough. Coach, thank you so much for joining us. You can catch the DePaul Blue Demons in the first round of the Big East Women's Basketball Tournament this Friday, March 8th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time when DePaul takes on the Seton Hall Pirates. It's at Mohegan Sun Arena. If you want to see them in person, tickets are still available. However, if you're not making the trip out to Connecticut, you can head over to the Big East Digital Network on Flow Sports to watch head coach Coach Bruno and his DePaul Blue Demons take on Seton Hall. Coach, thank you again.
Thank you, y'all.
Thanks, Coach.
After every conversation I have with Coach Bruno, I always just want to sit down and write everything down that he said because he is so full of wisdom. I could just suck it out of him for so long. He's always so generous with his time as well. It's such a fun time talking to him. Ladies,
yes.
Are you ready to do this thing? I want to hear. I'm so on the edge of my seat. This is going to be fun, okay? Listen, right? This is the fun that comes with the tournament, right? Brackets are meant to be busted. We've underdogs meant to make a name for themselves as the story. This is March. March is here. March starts Friday, 11 a.m. at Mohegan Sun Arena on the Big East Digital Network, or you're buying tickets because we still have tickets available and you're heading out to Unksville, Connecticut to hang out with us all weekend long. So
I did not know that it was pronounced Unksville.
I'm pretty sure it's Unksville.
Unkinsville. Yeah, it's
I'm
ugly.
sure you're correct. I've gone there how many times, and oh my gosh, I feel like an idiot. I am now a Connecticut resident, so I'm allowed to say we have some weird names up here.
Yeah. No, it is. I'm I guess it's, I'm pretty sure.
I think you're right.
Because I think the first year I may have said it the wrong way. All right, now you're getting me to second guess myself. Anyway, moving on. Ladies, I need to hear whether it's an underdog that you are ready to battle through the entire tournament, or bold prediction, who you're looking at semifinals, who wants to go first with their Big East Women's Basketball Tournament predictions.
I'll start. I can start.
Ice, should I give it to you?
Oh, yes.
Let's go, girl.
All right, we're starting with semifinals.
Whichever you
Let's
prefer.
go to the
Start
top
wherever
of the
you
bracket. Okay, I'm throwing Butler beating Prov. Okay, they're going to play UConn right there. All right, and then UConn is going to end up playing Marquette. Like I said in the beginning, Villanova beat Marquette both times, and it's tough to beat a team 3 times, especially as well coached as Marquette is. But Denise Dillon does her things all the time, and so that's going to be a good matchup. But I'm going to put Marquette and UConn in the semifinals at the top of the bracket. All right, now for this bottom of the bracket, gets a little spicy down here for sure. So I'm going to go Creighton, DePaul. All right. Creighton, DePaul, and I'm going to go St. John's versus Georgetown. All right, and then Creighton, St. John's. This one is a tight one. It's always been a competitive game, okay? Creighton's St. John's, that's always a game that they're worried about a little bit. They're 2 completely different teams, right? So it's fun when they go against each other. Mm-hmm. Creighton's last game, they allowed Seton Hall 40 paint points. And St. John's is a team that dominates the paint. So I am taking St. John's to the semifinals. And then off to the finals we go after that. Do I give my prediction?
I mean, why not? Let's go all the way, girl. She's so nervous. She's like, I don't want to make anybody angry.
It gets scary. Okay, so we got St. John's playing that game. Oh God, the UConn Marquette matchup. You guys are gonna make me do this. You are gonna make me do this. Gets crazy. Okay, all right. I'm throwing UConn in that semifinals game, and then UConn's going all the way towards the end. 18-0 in the Big East. Their UConn, Paige Beckers, is on fire in Connecticut, so got to give them the ring.
Yeah, I get that.
Lisa, you wanna go next, or give me? You don't. If you want to give the full bracket, if you
I'm
want to
just
give
a little sprinkle here and there. I am also going to go Marquette, Villanova Marquette gets the win for a couple of different reasons. Just it's been too close every other time these teams have played, and it is really hard to beat teams 3 times. And I talked to Denise Dillon about her matchups and her side's matchups with Villanova against Marquette and how tough those games were, right? Home and away. They were really similar, honestly. It was backcourt battling and making sure those little tiny things, like it came down to a possession. And Villanova, they thrive on that. They want that. And Marquette, I just don't think they're going to let it happen that quickly. I don't think it's going to come down to a possession, which is why Marquette's going to get the win and they will advance. It comes down to making adjustments on the fly and being able to react to that. And Denise Dillon gives a lot of emphasis on that and has a lot of respect to Marquette. So this is probably one of my favorite matchups that we get to watch in this Big East tournament. And I like that it comes on the first day of this, like for these two sides. Honestly, I do, because they're going to be well rested. That is like hands down my number one matchup to watch in this Big East tournament. But I am going to give it to Marquette. They're going to advance, and then UConn's going to beat them, and UConn's going to go all the way and win. Georgetown, I think will beat Xavier, and then I think St. John's has one of the maybe like most sought after trails in the bracket and how well and how far they can go. So the way that it's set up, they'll either play Georgetown or Xavier, 2 sides that they beat both times they played them this year. Like there was no doubt about that. And St. John's is a 3rd seed right now in this tournament. And that's the highest St. John's has been since 2020. And under Joe Tartamella, who's been there for a long time, who understands the Big East, who understands how the tournament kind of plays out, I just think there's something in the water for this Red Storm side. I want them to go farther. They'll make it to the semis. I don't know. And then I have UConn. So that's about it.
Solid.
I love it. I love it.
What are we thinking?
Yep. I've got a couple of sprinkles. Okay. I do think Providence will win in the first round. Even though I think Butler is playing very good, I'm going back. I'm like, nah, I think Providence will win in the first round. I agree with Marquette winning against Villanova only because Marquette has more seniors. Because I think about this time of year, people are desperate. You understand these are your last games. And so there's just too many seniors Marquette has to not at least pull out that first win. On the other side, I've got Seton Hall beating DePaul. And then I've got Seton Hall beating Creighton. I don't think that Creighton is going to beat Seton Hall 3 times. I actually think that the Pirates have it. I think when they click on all the right cylinders, it could be good. But like Chloe said, it's hard to beat a team 3 times. They just played each other, so it's fresh. It's a fresh wound. You put some salt in that thing, and you upset someone. So I'm actually got the Pirates being my big upset, and that they're going to get to the semifinals. And then I think we're going to have a St. John Seton Hall semifinals. And how fun is that? How fun is a rivalry? Great. And how fun is that? I'm here for the TV game. I want the storyline game. Let's bring the rivalry on that side. And that's as far as I'm going to go.
Okay. Well, we
I don't know if that's
that.
Nice. I'm kidding. That's a good one.
Yeah, thank you. My semifinals. I gave you the semis. You want to watch the rest? Tune in.
Megan, what about you? Megan, who do you think's going to go far? Who do you think any upsets in this tournament?
Guys, I'm the host. I'm the host. I'm just
I also have one player. I have one player prediction though. I do have one player prediction. I think to my core that Jordan King will have a 30-point game in these playoffs. I think she's just going to will somebody to victory. And I feel like she just hasn't been as explosive as we wanted her to be in this final senior year. And so I think for her, there's a little bit of a pressure and an opportunity to rise and go out on a bang. And I think she's going to have a big.
So do you think Marquette will beat UConn in the semis?
Ooh. I don't know, Lisa. What do you think, Lisa?
Guys, I tried to get her.
What do you think, Lisa?
I will just lean into the 4-5 matchup a little bit more, because I think that it's going to be. I think the entire tournament will be spectacular basketball. However, I do think Villanova, discovered a lot about themselves in their game this past Sunday against DePaul. To be able to essentially come back in the way that they did and lean on Lucy the way they did. However, Ice, I think that you said it on the broadcast too, it wasn't all about Lucy in that game, right? And so I think that that is something that Villanova, Lisa, you mentioned that multiple times during this year with conversations with head coach Denise Dillon of what this team is really looking like. And I think that they were able to lean on Lucy when they needed to most. And I think that that was one of the biggest confidence boosters for Lucy to have under her belt going into the tournament. But I do think that that was the game Villanova needed to set them up for it. Now, right, not only is it a physically exhausting game heading into the tournament, it's a mentally draining game as well. I think any player who's in a game like that can tell you, I think you need more time to recover mentally after that game sometimes than you do physically. But I think the Wildcats are walking away from their game on Sunday feeling really good, feeling like they just peeled back, I think, one of those like final pieces of the onion that they were like waiting to hopefully peel back in time before the tournament. And like, it just so happened to time up perfectly. Sometimes it happens. So I do think that they are going to come into this game like a different team, which makes me very excited for it.
Great point.
So that's
I think you could, Meg, yeah, I think you could be onto something, Meg. The key there is Christina Dulce staying out of foul trouble.
Yes.
That's the key. That's the key. She needs to be on the floor 30 minutes a game in order for them to be successful and for Lucy not to have to push the brink sometimes and force shots she doesn't have to. It's Christina Dulce. Like, she has to stay on the floor.
She does. Like, she was, when I was at Villanova UConn, when I was at that game and I watched get into foul trouble early and proof is in the pudding, Ice. And I think Christina knows, that's like her personal battle that she goes with every time, right? She is such an emotional player. And it's so great to watch because she wears everything on her sleeve, but it's like, okay, keep it in check a little bit. Your team needs sense.
Yeah.
All right, ladies. Well, I head out to Unksville on Wednesday. Lisa and Ice, we're going to miss you this season. We are going to miss you guys. I'm pumped. I'll spend some time with Chloe in a little bit of a different facet this season, which I'm pumped for. And hopefully in the bonus, listeners, fans, if you are thinking about coming, come, make a trip out of it, right? If you can't join us on Friday, we got a whole weekend full of hoops with the final ending on Monday night. So the tournament starts on Friday. We've got games starting as early as 11 a.m. Eastern time on the Big East Digital Network. Saturday, quarterfinal Saturday is one of the longest, best days in basketball. Semis are on Sunday, and a champion will be crowned on Monday evening. So if you're interested, you can head over to bigeast.com for more information on how to get all of those tickets. But ladies, I think it's time to wrap the final episode before we know who the champions of the Big East Women's Basketball Tournament is. How does that sound?
Do it.
Woo-hoo.
Let's do
Alrighty.
it.
Be sure to subscribe to In the Bonus by the Big East Conference on your preferred podcast listening platforms such as iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Spotify, Deezer, TuneIn, Radio Public, Pandora, Overcast, Odyssey, Samsung Podcast, Pocket Cast, Player FM, Simplecast, and Apple Podcasts, as well as the Big East Conference YouTube page. And make sure to like, share, and review. You can also visit bigeast.com for more conference news and information. Thanks so much.